Okay, so recently I saw a video on TYT University about the dangers of texting and driving. Now I'll give you a little background. I'll link it up in my channel in the description, but if you're watching this on TYT Nation, I don't have magician-like powers to link it up over there. Now basically the story goes like this. A kid was texting his boy. He was like, I better stop texting or else I'm going to get into an accident. Then he got into an accident. Now, the hosts of TYT University were John Adirola and Lisa Ferguson, I'm guessing. If I don't know, if I fucked up her name, I'm sorry, I'm not perfect. Now, they both concluded that the answer to texting and driving is pass a law against texting and driving. And most people would think that's a logical solution. You know, if something is dangerous, the government should ban it. Now, it turns out that in states where texting and driving is illegal, texting and driving related accidents actually go up. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. It's the law of unintended consequences. When texting and driving is legal, you usually have your steering wheel here and you have your phone right here like a jackass. Because by the way, if you do text and drive, I go by the Boondocks principle that nothing important was ever typed by somebody's thumbs. You're an idiot. But for argument's sake, when you are texting and driving, you usually have your phone here. You're looking down, you're very distracted. According to John Adirola, if you're going 40 miles an hour, in the time that it takes you to text and to send one text message, you drive the length of a football field. So you got your phone right here, you're texting in a state where it's legal. Very dangerous, you shouldn't do it. But what happens when texting and driving is illegal? Well, it turns out a couple of studies have been done. And what ends up happening is people try and avoid the ticket. Now, how do they avoid the ticket? They end up concealing their phone. So instead of having your phone here, steering wheel here, phone here, you're actually concealing your phone. It's off camera right now, but you get it. You're looking down. And that increases the danger because it takes you longer to do the text message. Your eyes are completely averted from the road instead of mostly averted from the road. And this is why texting and driving accidents go up in states where texting and driving is illegal. Because the amount of people deterred by the law don't offset the amount of people who are stupid and ignorant and will just try and find a way around the law. So that's basically the principle of unintended consequences. When you pass a law or create an action, there is an expected result and an unexpected result. And now I want to segue to a couple of economic policies so you can see how this translates to government actions economically. Now, a couple of years ago, Charlie Rangel, who is a congressman from New York, he sponsored a bill that gave a subsidy to people who bought electric cars. Subsidy was for about $6,000. Now, this was supposed to even out the playing field. If you watch Professor Rich's video on how to argue economics from a liberal point of view, he said that subsidies could help even the playing field in the context of green energy. So this could help even the playing field by, kind of closing the gap between electric cars and non-electric cars. But it turns out there is an electric car that costs about $6,000. It's just middle-class people like you or me, or maybe you're rich and watching this video. If you are, I'll link up my email. You could donate me some money. But there is a car that, an electric car that costs about $6,000, and this is a golf cart. Now, I suck at editing. But what you should be seeing right now on your screen is a poster that basically has a picture of a golf cart and it says it's free, right? And it shows you the price and it shows you the tax credit. And what ended up happening through the course of this electric car subsidy, which did expire, most of them don't expire, the golf cart company realized that that was about what their product cost and they would help you fill out the form. So if you were rich and you had $6,000 to throw away on a golf cart, you could wait a few months or almost a year until you get your tax returns back, and you would get a credit equivalent to the golf cart. This effectively gave rich people golf carts. Now, I heard about this story on Fox News, so a lot of people are going to dismiss it right away, but John Stossel is the one who reported it, and he actually obtained one of these free golf carts. Mike Huckabee got one of these free golf carts, and they were, of course, laughing at the fact that you paid for it as taxpayers. And one of Mike Huckabee's friends said he got 7 because there's no limit in the subsidy to how many of these electric cars you can buy. Because it was figured, if you buy one electric car, you should get the subsidy. Maybe a family might be able to afford 2 electric cars and they get the subsidy. Nobody expected, unintended, nobody expected people to find out that golf carts will qualify as electric cars. So what ended up happening was you, the taxpayer, paid for all these rich fuckers for about 2 or 3 years to drive around on their fucking fancy golf carts on their fucking fancy golf courses. I mean, just think about it. Tiger Woods, before his divorce, of course, was worth about $1 billion. Now, I'm not sure if Tiger Woods drove a golf cart or not, but if he bought a golf cart within the time frame of this subsidy, you paid for it. Shaquille O'Neal, if you've seen him on MTV Cribs, has a fucking house so gigantic that he drives around on a golf cart to get from different wings of his home. If Shaquille O'Neal bought a golf cart within this time, you fucking paid for it. Jamie Dimon and a lot of Wall Street bankers love to play golf. Now, rich fucks are too lazy to walk to the ball when they drive it miles away on their fucking rich, fantastic golf course. So if they bought a golf cart within this time, you fucking paid for it. How come you're not angry about that? But that's a side issue. What I'm trying to say is there are unintended consequences to your actions. And if you found out about them, you'd be pretty fucking pissed off. Now, Charlie Rangel fashions himself a progressive champion, but he just gave a gigantic subsidy to a bunch of fucking rich people. Now, there are other unintended consequences for consumer protections. Now, another example would be the national credit card reform that most liberals say was too weak. But what ended up happening is companies like JP Morgan didn't offer credit cards to the bottom 15% of their customers. But sometimes these people need credit anyway. Now, liberals will argue that they were being gouged because, when they would make a late payment, their interest rate would jump up and they wouldn't even have been told and all that, or they would be told when their bill came that their interest rate jumped up and they were complaining about this or whatever. But the unintended consequence of the credit card reform regulating that was the creation of these payday loans. Now, I'm sure you've seen these all around. If I don't suck at editing, I'll post a picture of a payday loan. And payday loans can charge from 500 to 800%. Now, politicians say that the solution to the payday loan problem is to pass a law regulating payday loans. This is what I call the whack-a-mole theory of politics. When politicians see a problem, and they fucking whack it like a game of whack-a-mole, 3 more problems pop up. And then they try and whack each one of those, and then they keep multiplying, yada, 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 on and on forever. Now, look, I have one more big example of unintended consequences, and the reason I wanted to give this example is because this program is championed as a great success of government, and that's the Cash for Clunkers program. Now, the Cash for Clunkers program, basically, if you had an old car that doesn't get very good gas mileage, you could trade it in at a car shop for a car that gets better gas mileage, and you get a $4,500 tax credit for doing that, for buying a new car, essentially. Now, these working vehicles, because they all had to be working, were destroyed, and they were destroyed by pouring liquid glass in the engines, and then they had 90 days to crush the cars. So what ended up happening was auto sales jumped in the months that Cash for Clunkers were in effect, but if you look at the graph, and again, if I don't suck at editing, I will post a graph of the car sales, you'll see that there's a dip in the months before and after Cash for Clunkers. Now, this is because people who were going to buy a car in the months before and after, basically, they waited for the subsidy, and the Cash for Clunkers program essentially stole sales from other months, which is somehow called stimulating the economy. I disagree. Now, that's one set of unintended consequences. Now, remember, these were working cars that were destroyed. So, if you were in the market for a used car lately, then you'll notice that the prices are up. And the prices are up on average about $1,800. I recently had to buy a used car, and I'm not too happy about paying fucking $1,800 more because of a government program I didn't even agree with. Now, the reason that this jumped up is basically, the price jumped up was basic economics. 700,000 working automobiles were taken off the market and destroyed on the Cash for Clunkers program. If you reduce the supply and the demand is the same, the price goes up. So, if you bought a used car, you paid $1,800 on average more than you would have if it wasn't for this program. Now, if you run if you need parts for your car, because you had only 90 days to destroy all these cars, and they got such a great influx of vehicles, what ended up happening was they didn't have enough staff to disassemble them properly, and they ended up taking off the tires and all the quick stuff. So if you needed a new alternator, a radiator, whatever, all that was destroyed. The engines were destroyed on the spot. So if you need an engine replacement, you're totally fucking screwed. But that's an unintended consequence. And if you run a spare parts shop, then your costs go up and your prices go up, and prices go up, customers leave, so you ended up hurting a lot of the secondary car market, which is a huge part of the automobile market. Now, this program is championed as a success, and now a lot of people are going to say, oh, there was an environmental aspect to it. The effect on the environment of those 700,000 people, about 700,000 people, switching to more fuel-efficient cars is negligible. To put it in certain context, if you believe in the global warming apocalypse, it might have been delayed by about, if I'm generous, 2 minutes. This is the point. I just want you to know that politicians have a lot of power. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't ever pass laws. I mean, obviously murder should be illegal, and rape and stealing and all that crap, force, fraud, everything, that should be illegal. But what you have to realize is, I'm about to do a Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you're going to pass a law, you have to really think about what you expect to happen and bad things that you don't expect to happen. And this is also a great argument for states' rights, because if you make a mistake on the national level, everybody suffers. If you make a mistake on the local level, then, or a state or local level, then other states, you can compare them. Like, the only reason we know that texting and driving, is more dangerous in states where it's illegal than where texting and driving is legal, is because different states have different laws. So that's an argument for states' rights. My point is, look, you have to exercise extreme caution, and you have to think about the laws that you're advocating for. I mean, there are unintended consequences to your actions. And one more thing, when bad stuff happens after a law is passed, like accidents going up after texting and driving laws are passed, it becomes impossible to repeal because A, you're essentially arguing for texting and driving, which is an inarguable position to the average voter, and B, the police become dependent on the money gained from the ticketing process. So, think about what you're doing. Don't jump to pass a law right away. This is TYT Nation. My channel is I Am Sean 9. You guys can subscribe to that, I'm just saying. And hopefully this is some strange version of TYT economics, but not really. Unintended consequence.